Hey everyone, it's David Mendel here with the Caliber Premier Team and My Home Group.
And I'm Brogan McGuire with Caliber Home Loans.
Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about just really kind of a quick one take, the inspection of a home purchase, the due diligence period during a purchase of a home. Brogan, from the lender's perspective, what is the importance of a home inspection from your point of view?
It's a good question, and I don't think a lot of people think about it from that perspective, because it's really, mainly thought about, obviously, from the buyer's perspective of, is there anything wrong with the home that I'm going to need to pay for down the line?
Right.
It's not thought about in the sense of, if there are any active safety issues with the home, there are certain things that we cannot lend on unless there is, that has been addressed on the property. Different loan types have different regulations for that. Government loans, conventional FHA, they tend to be the stricter of the loans on what they allow as far as safety. You can see things as little as, maybe there's a small lift on a piece of concrete, that could be a trip hazard. They'll flag that. That might need to be repaired if it's severe enough prior to closing. So there's a lot of things that we have to look out for as the lender on a property. A really common one here in Phoenix is bars on windows. If there's bars on windows and there's no emergency quick release, that is a fire code. It doesn't matter if it's conventional, FHA, government, whatever it may be, that has to be addressed either by installing an emergency release or just removing them altogether prior to closing. So we see that quite a bit. The big thing about that is generally an inspection is completed prior to an appraisal. That's generally how the process works.
Correct.
Now let's take the bars on the window example, because that's very common and really it's a pretty easy fix. If that's not addressed prior to the appraiser coming out there, the appraiser then puts that on his appraisal report and notes that as a safety hazard. The appraisal always gets sent to us as the lender. The inspection does not. That is not something that is required to be sent to us, but the appraisal is. So if an appraiser tags it, we then have to alert an underwriter about it, then an underwriter requires proof to show that that has been repaired.
So they condition the appraisal.
Exactly, it's a conditional appraisal. Now, again, let's using the bar on window example. We will then need a photo to show that that has either been removed or that the emergency release has been attached. And then we will also need a signed certification from the agent stating that that has been completed as well. So again, in that scenario, bars on window, not the end of the world, but there can be some much more complex issues that come up other than just, a couple bolts that you have to take off.
Some of the more common issues that we see on appraisals tend to happen on older homes. And the bars in the window, like Brogan said, is a super common one. Another one is earth to wood contact. Another one would be a faulty grade, which basically means that the direction that water would flow from a house should be going away from it. But if the grade is faulty, it's going to allow water to push toward the home, and that can have some negative consequences on the house.
Again, going back to the minor issues compared to the severe issues that can come up, a grading issue is not a clear-cut fix. I mean, that can be extremely expensive if it gets to the point where you have to really move some earth if it's that severe.
And to be clear, not all faulty grades are correctable.
It's true.
Some faulty grades are by design. If you have an older home that's been stuccoed and that stucco goes down below the stem wall of the house, the foundation of the house, that creates a faulty grade. But it was created by design. So as long as the grading of the property around the home, immediately around the home, let's say 18 inches from it, sheets water away from it, then that's probably fine, but it's still conditioned and it needs to be explained and it needs to be signed off on. So again, something to be aware of front. Now, as far as the point of doing an inspection from the real estate perspective, it's protection for you as the buyer. It makes you aware of the condition of the house. It reveals to you things that you otherwise might not see. And even if you're okay with maybe having a little bit of a fix-up. It gives you the opportunity to plan for some of the things that are going to need to be repaired and by when. If you're buying a home that's, say, built in the last 20 years, let's say it's 18, 19 years old, this is a really common one. You see it's got a tile roof, and everyone's like, oh, tile roofs last forever. Well, and the tile itself, it's concrete. It is a lifetime product. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the underlay, or the tar paper that's under the tile roof, is not a lifetime product, and that has a life expectancy of about 20 years. And so when you're looking at this house, it's 18, 19 years old, you're thinking, wow, it's got a tile roof, that's awesome. But, depending on the size of the house, depending on the type of the tile, depending on who's doing the work, that could be a $10,000 or $15,000 maintenance repair that you're going to have to budget for in the next few years. Doesn't mean the roof is going to collapse. Doesn't mean it's even a bad thing, but it's definitely something to be aware of and something that, or some way that the inspection genuinely benefits you. Gives you knowledge, gives you the ability to plan. And as a buyer's agent, I want to make sure that my clients are incredibly well informed. In this competitive market, what some agents are suggesting to their buyers is that they waive their home inspection, or at least waive, they make it an as-is contract, which the funny thing is, the contract now is as is by default. There used to be a section called seller warranted items where if the seller became aware of certain things, like if it had an active leak or if there was an electrical issue, the seller was responsible to make those repairs. But as of a couple of years back, when we revised the residential resale purchase contract, that went away and the contract became as is by default. The intent behind this is saying we're presenting a really clean offer and there's less involved, so you want to accept our offer. And although that's a wonderful intent, it can sometimes have some negative impact on the buyers. So from the lender's perspective, Brogan, what are some of the pitfalls of waiving a home inspection?
Well, it goes back to, a couple of things we talked about earlier, where at the end of the day, you really just don't know. No matter what the age of the home is, whether it's 2 years old or 100 years old, there's always things that are not visible to the naked eye, or at least not visible to the naked eye without crawling around in some tight places you don't really want to go,
Sure.
To really understand what the condition of the home is. A really important thing, especially, or a type of home you see for sale, that I think this is more important than most, would be a flip or a rental or something like that, where just because it looks pretty doesn't mean it is on the inside. You can put a lot of lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. So just because it's got the white and gray and the nice quartz countertops doesn't mean that the foundation's not crumbling and there's mold in the attic.
Well, you can polish a turd, but then you just end up with a shiny turd.
Right. So the point being is, again, no matter what type of home it is, even on a new home sometimes, you still want to know what you're getting into. And
Sure.
for $400 or $500 for a good inspector, I think the peace of mind of that is worth its weight in gold.
100%.
And another thing too that is, especially with first-time buyers, they get a little bit scared about is, I don't know about you, I've never seen an inspection that it wasn't at least a page. There's always something on that they're going to find. That's their job, is to find things.
You're talking about the summary.
Yes, I'm sorry, the summary.
So yeah, there's generally a section in an inspection report where they summarize the things that are wrong, or maintenance items, things that should be addressed at some point, if not immediately.
And they'll list those generally line by line by line. And again, I've never seen one that wasn't at least a full 8.5 by 11. And that can scare people, because they open this up and like, holy crap, there's so much wrong with this house. Now, and again, it's the inspector's job to do that. So he may be pointing something out that really might not be an issue for 5, 10, 15 years down the line,
Sure.
but his job is to make you aware of it. So that's when having a great agent on your side comes in to help you walk through that and say, okay, yep, this is important, this is going to need to be addressed immediately, that could be on the back burner, or that's really a non-issue, that's just going to happen regardless.
And good inspection companies and good inspectors will invite you to reach out with questions. You're gonna review this report. These reports, to be clear, are 50, 55 pages. Sometimes they have multiple summary pages. there's a lot to digest. And fortunately, they provide a lot of pictures. Again, if you have a great inspector, you're going to have pictures and descriptions. And there's a lot of value to having the inspection beyond just knowing what's wrong with the home. It's great for future maintenance, a lot of stuff. But again, there's a lot to digest and decipher, and a good inspector should and will invite you to call. So I, as an agent, would encourage you to speak directly with them. When you're reviewing this, and you say, well, the diverter valve is leaking in the hall bathroom, and you think, oh my gosh, the diverter valve! There's a lot to unpack in these two seemingly basic processes of purchasing a home. The appraisal process and the inspection or due diligence process. But we're here for questions. If you guys have questions, if you're thinking about buying a home now or at any time in the future, you just want to talk about it, you want to learn more about it, we would love to speak with you. Hit us up down here in the comments or reach out to us directly, and we're happy to answer any of those questions, whether that's from a lender's perspective, from the agent's perspective. We've got you covered. So thanks for joining us today, and we will look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Have a great day, guys.